Many times people that have mental illness are afraid. They're afraid to come forward because they're afraid of being judged by others. It's really like not right because, judging people, judging others because they're different is not right. Our society is so screwed up in a way because, people just don't want to take the time to educate themselves. I understand ignorance. I'm ignorant of a lot of different topics and a lot of subjects that I don't know anything about. I'm ignorant in that sense, but I try to educate myself the best I can on topics that are curious to me, and I don't know, it's just weird, I understand that people are afraid. They're afraid, of course they're afraid, because they don't know. The unknown is scary to a lot of people. Yes, it is. And I'm guilty of being filled with anxiety and fear of things I'm not aware of and I'm not knowledgeable of. Sure I am. And I was terrified of mental illness myself, of different illnesses like paranoid schizophrenia and psychotic illnesses and behaviors. I was terrified of being around people that had these illnesses. But I had to research these things, these mental illnesses and disorders, because I wanted to know symptoms people were suffering from and why were they behaving in certain ways and because of these illnesses. And then once you educate yourself on these topics such as mental illness and these disorders, you feel a sense of like, okay, I can understand this, I can understand that. I know why these people are representing these symptoms. I'm more aware now, and I don't have that sense of fear like I did in the past. And you start to feel better. You start to have compassion. You start to have understanding, empathy for others that are dealing with these issues and situations and circumstances. I myself have mental illness, and I was very, very ashamed in the beginning to disclose this information out of fear of being judged. When I did my research, I was upset. I was unhappy with what I read. I didn't want to be this way. I didn't want to have a mental illness. And I was upset. I was very upset, And I had to go for help. I had to admit myself into the hospital for psychiatric care. I was terrified. I didn't want to do it. I was terrified of being diagnosed with an illness like my sister had. And I had to do it. I had to do it. I had to face my fear. And I remember one time I pushed my daughter, and she was like she was 2 years old. I was having an argument with my ex about child support, and we were no longer together because our relationship was filled with domestic violence and mental illness. We both have mental illness, and we both weren't medicated at the time. We started the relationship, and it was horrible. Filled with chaos, filled with drama, filled with abuse, emotional and physical. And there was one point God was sitting on my shoulder, I guess, because I was able to tell my ex I didn't want to have the relationship continue. And mind you, I was in a relationship for 7 long years. And our daughter just turned 2. I had to make that decision for my mental health and my daughter's. And I said I didn't want to be with my partner no more. And he became very angry with me. Long story short, I had to call the police, and I had to reach out to family court. And I had to do what I had to do, And it wasn't about just me and him. It was about our daughter and her mental health. So anyway, he had moved out, and he found a new relationship with somebody else and lived I think 3 or 4 blocks away. And I went to visit him one day because I needed his help with child support. And it was a big fight. It was a struggle to get money out of him regarding our daughter's care. And I don't think he was home that day. I went up there and I yelled. I was very angry. I think I yelled at his girlfriend or something like that. But then our daughter was with me, and she was like, we were walking. We walked to his apartment, and in the midst of me becoming upset in front of my daughter, she said she was sorry for me being upset, and I pushed her. I took out my anger on my daughter, but I didn't hurt her or harm her. I walked. We continued to walk, and then I walked to a payphone, and I called 911. And then they hung up on me. I called back, and I asked to have someone pick me up because I was afraid I was going to hurt my daughter. And then the police and ambulance arrived. They took me to the hospital, and you know, I stayed 3 days, and then for observation, and I admitted myself. I know I had an issue and I wanted to get help for it. And that's the hardest thing people deal with, because they're afraid. They're just so afraid to find out what is the problem with me. Why am I behaving this way? What's wrong? I don't want to hear anything bad. And all these fears run through your mind because you're terrified. And I had to face my fear that day, my worst fear. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I have major depressive disorder and anxiety, which didn't, I guess I didn't request medicine for the anxiety until many, many years later. And I also have borderline personality disorder, which made me so upset I cried. And that didn't occur till 2 or 3 years ago. I found that out, and I was so devastated. It was a hard pill to swallow. I told my therapist I didn't want to have any multiple illnesses. It just bothered me. It made so much sense, though, when I think about it. I think about the anger I have, and I get really scared how angry I can get sometimes, how I can become. I have to deal with this illness every day. And I don't know, these emotions, they get to me sometimes. I just cry automatically sometimes when something hurts me. It's just I'm fearful of being judged. And I'm not a criminal, you know. And it's like people are so scared nowadays of someone who has a mental illness. And what I don't really care for is the judgment. You have to get to know somebody for who they are, honey. You can't just automatically put a label on me and say, I'm a murderer, I'm a criminal, I'm this and that, without getting to know me. So I requested medicine to see if I could feel better. And I was put on medicine for major depression. And I stayed on that medicine they prescribed for many, many years until it just wasn't working. I didn't feel the same way as I initially did when I was an inpatient for, you know, I was admitted inpatient. I did 6 months in inpatient, I think, or 3 months, I don't know. I don't remember how long I stayed, but I did inpatient, I did day program. It was hard. It was so hard, you know, to leave my daughter, and, you know, it was just something I had to do for myself, to try to heal, to try to help myself, you know? And then, you know, you start to feel awkward, out of place. You don't feel like, you just feel weird, you know? That, I don't know, it's just really hard to explain. Anybody who has a mental illness can relate, of course. There's different ones. I'm so thankful that I don't have any psychotic issues as far as paranoia and schizophrenia. I'm so grateful of God. Those are the worst. But thank God there's medication, there's therapy, there's programs to help people who have mental illness to lead normal lives. It's not like a death sentence where, okay, you're diagnosed with mental illness and that's it. Prepare to die. No, it's not that. You could still live and participate in life. You could have a career, raise a family, everything that comes with a normal person. It's just that you have to take medication and seek therapy services. I don't know, I just feel like I wish that I didn't have it. I wish I didn't have a mental illness, you know? But I don't want to be in denial and say, you know, not take my medicine, not go to therapy. I have to do these things because I have to stay on the right, I have to be even keel and, you know, have the right frame of mind and be in reality, you know? And it's hard at times. I have good days and bad days, just like anybody else. I notice that with celebrities, like, you know, people that are in the media all the time, when they are diagnosed with mental illness, they come forward. And you don't hear a lot of judgment, you know, because it's like, oh, really? It's like you don't hear the negative connotations like you do with normal people, with regular people that aren't celebrities. There's more stigma with regular people than with celebrities that have mental illness. Many people came forward. Halle Berry, Catherine Zeta-Jones. There was one celebrity I was completely surprised who came forward with a mental illness. What was his name? It'll come to me. But he played Mork and Mindy. He was in that show Mork and Mindy. And I was so surprised. He was diagnosed with depression. He committed suicide. He had a family and children. What was his name? Oh, I watched several movies he was in, and he was just a very good actor. If you remember the name, put it in the comments below. I can't remember. But I was shocked because he you know, usually you could tell if a person has a mental illness. It just, like for me, I have depression, so I look sad all the time, and people say I look mean, but it's just my natural look. I'm serious. I'm serious. I don't, you know, have this permanent smile on my face every day, and you know, this is just how I look, you know. So it's easy to see that I have depression, sadness, and withdrawn sometimes. It's easy to see it. But for this particular actor, I was so shocked. You would never guess he had major depression. Never in your million years, because he kept up the appearances of a happy person that didn't have any kind of problems in his life. He kept up that appearance, that persona. I mean, even though he was probably dealing with family issues and his mental illness, he kept secret. It didn't come out until his death. Oh, the name is on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember. Jesus. Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. I can't remember his name. But anyway, it was a shock to find out this particular person had mental illness. I would have never guessed it until they said something. His family said something. But anyway, I'm going to leave the video at that. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for watching.